Um, Good evening, everyone. Welcome to, I think I should put my video on, but once we get to be very busy, maybe I can put it off for some time just to allow us concentrate very well on the screen. And so welcome to our case study class for our Preseen simulation class, case study Preseen simulation class for November 2025 diet. The Preseen was released by ICAN few days ago, and the purpose of this class is to take a deep dive into what the Preseen looks like and try to analyze to understand what has been presented to you and see how we can make. I expect that you've done one or two research or review before this call, so that we can work together, because this is not a study text that we are saying, oh, a topic, Simeon is coming to teach. No. So it's a simulation. Hmm? And at the end of the day, I always tell students that the most important thing you need to bring to my class when we are having a case study Preseen simulation is open mind. So you need to be open-minded, and at the end of the day, you realize that we are holding a case study simulation that we won't tell you this is this is the final landing point. It cannot be like that. So we are not having a case study like that, a simulation class like that. Or we won't get to a point where we tell you this is the unseen. So we are not getting to that point. So you need to come into this class, hmm, and come with open mind, because I take my own case study simulation with the mindset of playing very safe, right? I put myself in student position and I think about it from, I want to play very safe. I don't want to I don't want to have surprises, um, you know, and that's it. So on that note, and I believe everyone in this class have attended case study lecture. I'm aware some people are probably just joining just for the Preseen and all, but I would make that assumption on the basis that we're not here to teach you how to write report. If you haven't attended lecture for case study, even with the few days we have to exam, if you need to pay the full tuition fee to have access to the recorded case study videos, especially the first 2, 3 lectures that we normally hold at the beginning of the diet, where we take our students through some basic rules. This is how you write your report. This is how you write your executive summary. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. Those things are very key. So at the end of this simulation class, we'll just ask you to go and write reports. If you don't gain access to those recorded videos and see what we've discussed in terms of detailed report essentials, it will be like those that know how to write report already, or those that have gone through that training, to be as if they are oppressing you with the report writing skills. So, um, you know, of course, the Preseen simulation class is going to be very helpful, but I'm just letting you know that we are going to focus on only the Preseen. So we are not teaching you how to write report here. We've done that. We spent the whole day doing that. Now we have the Preseen, and this will follow the normal structure that we have before now, where you get the Preseen before exam, and then you get the unseen during the exam. And you are not expected to bring this to the exam hall. Everything will be presented to you, both the Preseen that you already saw before exam and the unseen that you are seeing for the first time. Okay? And there are a few things that you are supposed to do. If let me just allow you to read only the first paragraph. I will appoint someone. Okay. I would allow each person to read each exhibit, just to walk through, and then we can start analyzing from there. And then we pick up key points as we walk through the case. But before we start reading, can you confirm if this part of my screen is very bold or is clear enough? If the case study bit of my screen is very clear? The Preseen bit.
It's clear.
Okay, Great. So it says this material is circulated prior to exam date to enable you familiarize yourself with the case study and to undertake any research or analysis that you deem fit. Right? This Preseen case study is also published on the website. You must not bring this material to the exam hall, so don't take it to the exam hall. Upon receipt of the material, you are to spend the next few days, which is what we are doing, examining the dates, few days to the examination date, familiarizing yourself with the information provided, carry out any additional research or analysis about the industry, together with relevant development and analysis of the financial statement provided. You should note, read it. You should note that the use of the Preseen part of the case study will not significantly help you in responding to all the requirements during the exam. It is essential that you carry out sufficient analysis on your own so that you can leverage on the Preseen and all of that. And at the end of the day, they gave you the fact that this is what the marking guide looks like. And these are things that we have deliberately emphasized on during our lectures, right? Things like the fact that if you don't produce executive summary at the end of the day, it has a big impact, really. So you need to, ensure you write executive summary. And we've discussed strategies to ensure you create a balance in terms of your time management now. And then another key thing here is the fact that ethical issue is an embedded requirement which can fetch you up to 10 marks. And we've told you things to watch out for when it comes to ethical issue. This is standard, that you watch out for things like lack of professional independence or objectivity, conflict of interest among stakeholders, doubtful accounting or creative accounting practices, unethical business or commercial practice, or inappropriate pressure to achieve a reported result. And these are things that you need to be watching out for in your case study that could signal the existence of ethical issue in this case. Okay. And at the end of the day, they gave you some warnings that you need to be able to show evidence that you are knowledgeable in all the things we've been walking you through in ICAN throughout your ICAN journey. And, omitting any of the critical area, can easily lead to failure in case study. And then the most important thing now is the fact that you've been provided with information about a company called Folak Motors Nigeria Limited. Folak Motors now. And you're given exhibit from exhibit 1 to exhibit 5, which is what we want to walk through to understand and break, this information into, understandable form in a way that we will be able to simulate appropriately. So we've got 5 exhibits and somebody needs to start reading for us, maybe exhibit by exhibit now. So who is reading the first exhibit for us? Exhibit 1.
Okay, let me go. Yep. Exhibit 1, about you, Sylvester Chukwudi, and your employer, Bagudu, Ademola and Co. Chartered Accountants. You are Sylvester Chukwudi, an accounting graduate, writing the professional level of ICAN examination. You are employed as a trainee in the firm of Bagudu, Ademola and Co. Chartered Accountants, reporting directly to Dauda Bagudu, a partner in the firm. Your position requires a proactive approach to client services and technical competence in accounting, financial analysis, and business advisory. Key responsibilities. 1, preparation of financial analysis and reports. You are tasked with preparing detailed financial analysis and reports regarding the performance of the firm's clients. This involves gathering relevant financial data, performing rigorous analysis, and presenting findings in clear, structured reports to facilitate informed decision-making. 2, analysis of financial statements. Your role includes analyzing clients' financial statement to identify areas of weaknesses. Upon identifying these anomalies, develop and recommend likely solutions aimed at correcting deficiencies and improving financial health. 3, assessment of business proposals. Assess various operational and strategic business proposals, evaluating how each aligns with the client's objectives. Additionally, consider the impact of these proposals on the client's business and financial risks to ensure recommendations are both practical and strategic. 4, evaluation of forecasts and assumptions. You are also to examine clients' financial and business forecasts, scrutinizing the assumptions upon which they are based. This is to enable you form well-grounded judgments, draw reasoned conclusions, and make relevant recommendations tailored to the client's context. 5, strategic tax planning advice. Provide advice on strategic tax planning, guiding clients towards approaches that result in optimal tax liabilities and compliance with relevant regulations. And the 6th one, drafting analytical reports. Based on your operational and strategic business analysis, draft comprehensive reports for your online report review, ensuring that findings and recommendations are clearly communicated and actionable. To effectively fulfill these responsibilities, you are to keep abreast of developments in the accounting and taxation sector, as well as matters relating to business sustainability, both at national and international scale. This commitment to continuous learning ensures that your work reflects current best practice and support the firm's clients in achieving their objectives. I'm done.
Oh, sorry, I was speaking. Sorry. I didn't know I was muted. Okay, thank you for reading. Thank you, really. And first thing I need to say, guys, is that, in fact, let me ask. I said something about this key responsibility during our lectures. Do you remember anyone, or what do you think, guys? What did I say about your role? If anything you can remember.
You said that the unseen parts will still revolve around your GD.
Very simple. Whatever I can want to ask you at the end of the day, it will not be outside these 5 things we are looking at, right? It will not be. So this can already tell you, so you can already, you might already start picking your signal right from here, right? Where obviously, if you look at this, considering that they also give you financial statements in this particular diet, it will be very, very unusual. I'm looking at your first 2 responsibilities now. I hope you are with me. In fact, before I continue on that trend, let me say something. You know that the way, I think it was Alaba that read. So the way she read, if you were not reading with us or with her, it's very wrong. You are not managing your time well. Time management starts from now. Like, you need to read this case study Preseen. In fact, see, if possible, read it 100 times if you have the time. So that when you enter exam hall, do you know all you need to do? You're just double checking to be sure that they didn't delete any exhibit in the Preseen, such that the only thing you now need to do is to do what? To review the unseen and now start working. And it saves you a lot of time. I can tell you, if you need to read these 16 pages afresh in your exam, maybe because you've forgotten some things or because you just need to refresh the reading, it consumes a lot of time. In fact, by the time we are ready for this case study exam, you see that 30 minutes before you enter exam hall, should I advise you what you should do? That 30 minutes, what you should do is to read this Preseen again and read the report. You are going to write a report at the end of the day. All you need to do in the last 30 minutes before you enter that exam hall is read this Preseen again and then read that the report we are going to write at the end of the day. Just read it and then enter the exam hall. That's all. And the purpose of doing that is that so that when you enter and your time starts counting, so that you don't spend time reading this 16 pages is a lot. Is a lot. Do you agree?
Yes, so I agree.
So it's very important. I know you won't have time to read it 100 times, but I'm just exaggerating. But if it is possible to read this case study 100 times before your exam, read it so that you already know what is in the present. So it's please read with us. So if not, I would have assumed that everyone has read this before now, and then we'll just start. But let's read together. Let's read together. And what I was talking about is the fact that the requirement at the end of the day would revolve around this your JD, nothing outside it. Because think about it from work now. If anybody gives you anything outside your JD at work, you need to shout now and say, this is not what you employed me for now. So that's it. And then from there, and with this trend, with this trend you have here, in this our cost chart for case study, this is our cost chart. I believe nobody is seeing this for the first time. So, but this is our cost chart for case study, right? And you see the trend for financial analysis, right? And with what we now have in the current diet, right? We can see financial statements, and then we can see these two solid JD here. So we don't even need to stress ourselves to know that we are going to be doing this we are going to be doing financial analysis in this exam. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So it means the only simulation we'll be doing at the end of the day. So I tried to update this sheet so that we can work around something. So the only thing I've done here is to import the numbers. So these numbers are the same thing we've got in this question. So that at the end of the day, we work on these columns and update and review these ratios to see the ratios we want to work with at the end of the day in the exam. So we will agree on them together. Is that fine? And then we'll also give allowance to if things change and all of that. So looking at your JD, we don't even need to stress ourselves to know that there is a very high probability that you'll be working around financial statement analysis. The only thing, when we take a deeper dive now, the only thing we will now be talking about is what are the possible ways you might get this analysis. What will the requirement look like? Is there a tendency of giving you additional information, either budget, either audited, either more years? And those are the kind of conversation we'll now have to have a deeper dive. But from what we've seen so far, you are definitely going to do an analysis of financial statements. Okay. And that's a starting point, really. So the second point, if you want to look at it again, is the fact that your job requires you to do an assessment of business proposals. That's assessing various operational and strategic business proposals, evaluating how each aligns with the client's objective, and additionally consider the impact of these proposals on the client's business and financial risk to ensure recommendations are both practical and strategic. And at the end of the day, this is usually a common JD, in just like the financial analysis, where you're likely to get things around proposal for evaluation or a capital project for evaluation, really. And for us to be able to know what this might look like, we need to read the remaining exhibit. So let's keep an eye on this assessment of business proposal. Are we on the same page?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the other thing in your JD is it says evaluation of forecast and assumption. You are also to examine client financial statement and business forecast, scrutinizing the assumptions upon which they are based, and this is to enable a well-grounded judgment, draw reasonable conclusions, and make recommendation at the end of the day. So it's always very important that you are open to forecast. And if you're thinking about forecast, See, trust me, the only person that might have a struggle, that might have issue, or that might be wondering what this could look like is someone that have not gone through SFM, which is why I usually recommend that somebody takes case study and SFM at the same time, or that you have written SFM before case study. Although going forward, it might be better now that we now have FM as skills level. So it's going to change a bit, but that's the ideal thing really. And why I said so is that anytime you hear the word evaluation of forecast and assumption, think about the forecast that you did as a topic in SFM, or even those things you did around free cash flow, where they can easily tell you revenue is expected to increase at this rate, cost is expected to drop or increase at this rate for the next 5 years. And you're expected to be able to absorb information like that and draft income and expense lines to be able to arrive at maybe a bottom line. That's what a typical forecast looks like. So if you're comfortable dealing with numbers like that, see, that's what they are talking about here. And see, it is possible that this is embedded in your proposal or a capital project where they are giving you a project and they are telling you, oh, sales in the first year of the project is expected to be this. It is expected to be this in the next 5, or to increase at this rate in the next 5 years. See, they are giving you information around the business proposal, but one way or the other, they are incorporating information that requires you to do a forecast. And of course, with assumptions. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's always a very easy one to absorb, Yeah, very easy. Revenue is expected to increase, cost is expected to drop. Okay, this one, company is expected to incur capital expenditure, all of those things. And that's it. You just absorb it carefully, show your workings, the same way, just like your capital project now, the way you will be inflating, if it is capital project, the way you normally inflate all your revenue, you inflate this one, inflate that one, that's what we're talking about. So, and sorry, just one sec. I need to check my WhatsApp. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Okay, and then the next one is this one. And this one says strategic tax planning and advice. Guys, provide advice on strategic tax planning, guiding client towards approach that results in optimal tax liability and compliance with relevant regulations. I remember the last diet or last two diet that they first of all introduced this JD. We thought they were going to really, examine tax liability, but there were other pressing things in that JD that they chose to examine. In this particular diet now, considering the sector that we are seeing to be examined, this might be something we need to pay attention to. And I mean, you guys have gone through the case study on a very high level. What sector are they testing?
Services, spare parts.
We can say services, but majorly bordering around automobile,
Yes, automobile,
and all of
office
that. So,
services.
and at the end of the day, there could be a subsector within that which can easily get a pioneer status, for example. And that is probably a big conversation that might really, and if I look at this, what this says, it says strategic tax planning, guiding your client towards this and all of that. So It's not something to ignore, really. And we need to take a deeper dive on that as well. And then the last one is just the part of drafting report. And this is just to re-emphasize that drafting a good report, a solid report, is part of your JD. So it's not for you to say you are very good with financial analysis, so you can evaluate all the capital project and all of that, and you are not able to write good report. It's not allowed at case study level. And that's why they are still using style to emphasize on it in your JD. Think about it from practice. If you're an advisory person and you're not good with PowerPoints, you're in trouble. If you're not good with PowerPoint and you're in advisory, you're in trouble, because part of what you sell as an advisory person is reports. Your report need to be very, very, so that when you're pitching any document, you're at least able to convince somebody. And that's it around our JD. So we'll definitely keep coming back to this JD to make reference to each of these. But let's look at Exhibit 2. And yeah. And as we read, let's pay attention to every detail. So who is reading Exhibit 2? Someone else, do you want to give that a try?
Okay, let me read. Exhibit 2, the Nigerian economy and the services sector. Introduction. The Nigerian economy, one of Africa's largest by GDP, is driven by a diverse array of sectors, with the services sector accounting for a significant share of national output. The motor repairs business stands out as a vital subsector, supporting the country's extensive road transportation system by ensuring the functionality and longevity of vehicles used by millions of Nigerians. The structure of the services sector in Nigeria. Nigerian services sector has experienced significant growth over the past decades. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the sector contributes over 50% to Nigeria's GDP, outpacing agriculture and oil in recent years. Its components include trade, transport, real estate, finance, information technology, professional services, and personal services. The motor repairs services subsector. Motor repairs, while often grouped under trade and personal services, represent a critical link in Nigeria's transportation value chain. As the country's urban centers expand and vehicle ownership rises, the demand for reliable professional motor repair services has surged, creating opportunities for entrepreneurs and skilled technicians alike. Key features affecting motor repairs. The following are the key features of the motor repairs subsector in Nigeria. Informal versus formal enterprises. The majority of motor repairs businesses operate within Nigeria's vast informal sector, characterized by small-scale workshops, roadside mechanics, and family-run garages. Formal enterprises often branded services center. Formal enterprises, often branded service centers, represent a smaller but growing segment, typically catering for newer vehicles and clients seeking higher standards of services. Skills and training. Technical expertise is mostly acquired through informal apprenticeships rather than structured vocational education, leading to variable service quality and innovation. The services sector's increasing sophistication has begun to drive demand for higher standards and technical certifications. Access to infrastructure. The efficiency of motor repairs businesses depend on access to reliable electric power, good road networks, and modern diagnostic equipment, all of which are shaped by wider services sector investment. Supply chain. Access to spare parts and technical information is strongly influenced by trade regulations, import policies, and logistics infrastructure within the services sector. Economic impact of motor repairs within the services sector. Motor repairs businesses contribute meaningfully to job creation, skills transfer, and local economic development. By supporting the road transport system, which moves over 90% of Nigerians' goods and people, they help sustain the productivity of other services subsectors, such as retail and logistics. Economic merit of the motor repairs subsector. Employment generation. The motor repairs business absorbed thousands of apprentices and skilled workers, offering a pathway for youth employment in an economy where formal jobs are scarce. Entrepreneurship. The low barriers to entry in the sector enables the proliferation of micro and small enterprises, thus fostering economic inclusion and complementary service. Successful motor repairs businesses often evolve into broader service providers, including auto electrics, car wash, sales of spare parts, and accessory installation, further deepening their economic footprint. Challenges facing motor repairs businesses in the Nigerian service sector. Despite its importance, the motor repair subsector faces considerable challenges arising from both the broader services environment and its own internal dynamics. Infrastructure constraints. Power supply remain low and erratic, forcing many businesses to rely on generators, which increases operational costs. Poor road conditions complicate access to clients and the movement of supplies. Inadequate workshop facilities and outdated equipment also limit the competitiveness of local businesses. Regulation and policy constraints. The absence of formal regulation for many informal motor repairs businesses results in consistent service standards and customer trust issues. Where regulation exists, compliance can be expensive and complex, particularly for small businesses. Access to finance. Access to finance. Limited access to affordable finance restricts business expansion, investment in modern tools, and capacity building. Financial institutions often prefer lending to well-established businesses with formal documentation and collateral, leaving smaller workshops at a disadvantage. Technical skill gaps. Reliance on informal training limits the sector's ability to adapt to evolving automotive technologies, such as hybrid and electric vehicles. Limited availability of structured vocational programs and certifications impaired workers' mobility and overall sector's professionalism. Supply chain and spare parts quality. Motor repairs businesses are frequently affected by counterfeit or substandard spare parts, which undermine service quality and vehicle safety. Trade policies affecting the importation of genuine spare parts can also disrupt supply chains. Okay. Digitalization and technology adoption. Nigeria's service sector is increasingly shaped by technological advances, yet most motor repairs businesses remain outside the digital economy. Limited access to digital diagnostic tools, online marketing platforms, and management software restrict their ability to scale and serve a modern clientele. Opportunities for growth and transformation. Amidst these challenges, the evolving services sector often offers several pathways for enhancing the performance and prospect of motor repairs businesses. These include vocational training and certification. Investment in formal technical education and certification can improve service standards, foster innovation, and enhance consumer confidence. Partnerships between governments, private sector, and international organizations can help deliver targeted training programs. The current government policy on technical and vocational education is expected to improve the availability of trained technicians in the subsector. Access to finance. Tailored financial products for small businesses, such as microloans and equipment leasing, can help entrepreneurs invest in modern tools, workshop upgrades, and staff development. Infrastructure upgrades. Improvement in the services sector's physical infrastructure, power, roads, and logistics will have direct positive effect on motor repairs businesses, enabling greater efficiency and customer satisfaction. Regulatory reform. Streamlining registration and compliance processes and encouraging self-regulation through industry associations can help raise standards while enabling smaller businesses to access broader markets. Digitalization. Adoption of digital tools for diagnostics, inventory management, and customer engagement can revolutionize service delivery. E-commerce platforms for spare parts and services also offer new growth avenues. Quality assurance. Collaborations with reputable suppliers and distributors and enforcement of standards for spare parts can help combat counterfeiting and ensure safety. Local production capacity. The volume of cars sold by dealerships in Nigeria and the demand for high-quality service and repair workshops is an indication that the capacity for parts production and for certification of technicians exists. The roles of government and stakeholders. The government of Nigeria, in collaboration with industry stakeholders, have a pivotal role to play in shaping the future of motor repairs within the services sector. The roles of the government include policy formulation, development of clear, supportive policies for motor repairs businesses can unlock their potential for job creation and economic growth. Public-private partnerships. Joint initiatives between the government, private sector, and development agencies can deliver infrastructure upgrades, promote skills training, and encourage best practice. Industry associations. Strengthening associations for motor repairs businesses can provide a platform for advocacy, skills development, and regulatory self-enforcement. The services sector is a significant part of the Nigeria economy, providing employment, fostering innovation, and supporting social mobility. Motor repairs businesses, a vital subsector, is both a beneficiary and contributor to this dynamic environment. Strategic investment in education, infrastructure, finance, and digitalization, combined with regulatory reforms and industry collaboration, can help motor repairs businesses thrive within Nigeria's evolving services sector. The financial success of the subsector will sustain the nation's mobility, drive its economic productivity, and empower the aspiration of its people.
Yeah, that was a long reading, and thank you for that. See, guys, if you're really following, you see that you cannot afford to spend time reading this again in the exam. So let that reading too, let's participate in it. Like, let's be active, because at some point I'm like, wow, are we going to be reading? And I thought we were going to get to the end already, but it looks like we're only halfway, or we haven't even gotten to. So, but it is what it is. So what I've basically provided to you from here is they started with information about in Exhibit 2 information about the Nigerian economy and the service sector. And they, introduce that to you to tell you the overall capacity in terms of GDP and how diversified the company is, and how the service sector is contributing like half of the growth in the economy or the output of the economy, right? And they spoke about motor repair service subsector extensively. Now, one of the things you see that they did, right, regarding the motor repair subsector is to discuss the key features of that sector. And now let's talk, because we are summarizing, listen. So now, motor repairs service sector. If you think about the motor repair service sector, the first thing that should come to your mind is the regular mechanics on the road, right? Because a lot of car owners, if not up to 90% of car owners in Nigeria, or if not more than that, use the roadside mechanics to get their car repaired. And that's what they spoke about here regarding informal and formal sector and all of that. And I mean, it doesn't mean that we don't have the standard ones, like we've got the repair centers, with most some of the big automobile um, companies, especially in Lagos and even many other states as well, right? And then the other thing that they spoke about in terms of feature now is skills and training, where a lot of time what we rely on in, if the informal sector contribute 90% to the repair that happens in that subsector, it tells you that most of the training come from the regular learning of mechanics, which is the regular boss and apprentice relationship that happens. And once you spend 3, 4, 5 years, you graduate and do what they call freedom, or what's the word again? And then they free you to go and start your own shop, and that's what is common in that sector. Um, and then it says access to infrastructure, and that's another problem. And I mean, when you talk about infrastructure now, if we look at it from technology and modern um, tools for diagnosing issues, you realize that the big boys that have repair centers, which are only taking care of maybe less than 10% of the repair that happens in that sector, they are probably able to afford the tools that is required for them to do a proper testing or diagnose problem with cars and all of those. But the fact still remains that over 90%, which is the roadside mechanics, right? They don't have access to those modern tools that we are talking about. And things like electricity is also like a very big problem. And even for the big companies that have access to the electricity, they are paying for it, and it's impacting on their costs as well, right? And then the other thing is probably to talk about supply chain. And when you talk about supply chain, you realize that, um, you know, for the guys in that sector that are big boys that have repair centers, they probably have direct connect to import raw materials, you know, from Japan, from all those countries that are big in those areas. But the fact still remains that those people have very low percentage of coverage in the sector. And bulk of the sector still represent the 90%, those 90% guys that would rely on a typical Ladipo market to buy those spare parts and all. And that's what we're talking about here, really. And that summarizes the key features of that sector. See, going into that exam, you need to be very comfortable with that summary I just gave around the feature, because that's when you'll be able to say, yes, I've read the information and I also understand the industry that is being analyzed. And still summarizing, what we read is that, we talked about the economic impact of that repair, the fact that they are contributing a lot, They are supporting other industries, logistics industry, and some other, subsectors. It's a big one. And if we look at economic merit as well, they talked about employment generation. See, think about the number of people who are doing mechanics in Nigeria. You will know that they are doing quite a lot. So across, in fact, almost every area, there is a mechanic workshop with so many people doing their stuff, earning their living, right? So it also encourages entrepreneurship as well. Um, and then complementary services. The fact that, in fact, I remembered when I was in Nigeria, where I normally repair my car, I is in a street that they have like a big workshop, and all the guys, anything that have to do with car, they all work together there. So if you talk about a typical mechanic, if you talk about a panel beater, if you talk about a wiring, what do they call them? I think they call them rewires.
Rewire.
Yeah, yeah, rewire. And then if you there is also like a brake master who specialize on brake, So in fact, AC people that specialize on car AC. So they work together, even within the informal sector. They work together like that. So it's not only the big companies that would say, "Oh, we have a repair center where we have people that we have employed to specialize on those areas." Even those informal sector work together like that, right? Such that when you get there and you don't meet the rewire guy, the mechanic guy already will just help you to cut the rewire. Oga Kunle, your customer is looking for you, and then before you know it, Kunle will jump down there, and then so that's it. So, and that spoke to complementary and doing quite a lot really in the economy, both from the informal and the formal side. And this bit is to tell you that there are quite a number of challenges that are facing the sector, and we've hinted you on the infrastructure constraint. See, we don't even need to dwell on this. Do you want to talk about power? Do you want to talk about the fact that they don't even have good space to when you if you look at a typical mechanic workshop, you're wondering, if this guy should have a better space, he might be able to do better. Or if he has a place or an affordable warehouse where he's able to rent and put all the tools, and those infrastructures are not there. And even the road condition in terms of them being able to, some people now, imagine someone who is very rich will probably think of a bad road and use it as a limitation to say, no, 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 I cannot go to that area just because of bad road. No matter how good you are, he will not come to you because of the bad road that links to your workstation. And those are the things. We can go on and on. So this is something that everyone on the call should be able to relate to regulatory and policy constraint, is also another thing to talk about. So, so many things we are still going to discuss in this area, because we are still going to talk about role of government, which is down there. Access to finance. See, if those guys can even have access to finance to buy spare parts, to buy tools and all of those, and pay small, would have made things better. But enter bank and saying you want to borrow, they will just chase you away. So is only the likes of Elizade that will enter bank and say they want to borrow, and bank will listen. Okay. And then the technical skills gap now. The fact that we said most of these guys learn on the roadside, normal boss and apprentice relationship, right? And at the end of the day, you realize that things might not be well structured to ensure they know everything they need to know before they start dipping hand into someone's car, right? So there is no proper vocational training like this one we are doing for ICAN, where someone has gone through everything, and before you start analyzing somebody's financial statement, we know that you're already well trained to be an accountant. So it's not the case for mechanics, and uh, Okay, so, and unlike guys that are probably trained, well trained through mechanical engineering or gone through some training in Japan or in China, who will probably do things in a different way. And then supply chain for spare parts really is another thing. At the end of the day, most of the mechanics would probably rely on a typical Ladipo market. And even when you talk about Ladipo market, it's a big deal now because how reliable is what you're buying there? A lot of fakes, a lot of things that are not regulated, a lot of, quality issues there. And those are some of the challenges. In fact, that's the summary of the challenges that we can talk about. And the last one that is mentioned here is also around digitalization. Think about the Ladipo guys now. I'm sure more than 70% of the people in Ladipo, I mean, there will be few people that would have been able to leverage on technology, but a lot of people in that Ladipo would rely on you coming to Ladipo to come and buy. So they will import these materials, but they will wait for people to come down to Ladipo to come and buy. So when you can easily leverage and be able to deliver to someone very easily, even if the person is in Jigawa, send it through GIG before you know it, it gets there. There will be few people doing that already, but very few really. And it tells you that we still have a long way to go in that area. And of course, the fact that we have all these long list of challenges doesn't mean that we do not have opportunities and opportunities for growth and transformation in that sector. And we've highlighted, in fact, you will see that most of these things that look like challenges present opportunity. Look at it from vocational training and certification. These are things that we can look at. See, you can even set up an academy. I'm talking to you guys now. You can start looking at setting up an academy. Maybe if if possibly you're from engineering background and you abandoned it to accounting, so you can consider linking your ICAN training to setting up an academy for training guys that will be repairing cars, and you give them certificate at the end of the day. Access to finance. See, it's very sad that those finance companies now, like is it Lapo or what's all this? See, I used to get a lot of messages. I get a lot of messages from a number of them on LinkedIn, everywhere, chasing you to come and borrow money just because they've seen your profile that you're working in a nice place. Go and look for those mechanics to and borrow them money to go and buy their tools, and let's start from there, right? But maybe government can do something to encourage those guys to also have access to finance, and we can get things better from there. Infrastructure upgrade, it's a no-brainer. Regulatory reform, which we are still going to really talk about. Digitization, quality assurance. This one now, quality assurance for a mechanic. Yeah, I mean, it's very possible through training. If we start, if government start to chase them, maybe through their association now, we should still be able to connect to them and say, if you buy any bad material for your customer, your fine is going to be high because government is now monitoring us. In fact, if your customer bring a fake material that they said someone bought for them, don't use it. Tell them that it's fake. And you too, don't buy fake materials for your customers. Those are few areas, and before you know it, it means nobody is buying fake materials again. People are discouraged to buy fake materials. And then before you know it, fake materials in the automobile sector would fade away. And those are the ways that regulatory reforms can come in, and in so many other ways as well. Local production capacity. We're still going to speak on this extensively. Let's move on a bit. And then we talked about how government can also do really well in this sector. This one, we are still going to discuss this bit very well, because if I think about policy formulation now, we've talked about it that government can still do well better. But if I look at a typical PPP that we've got here, public-private partnership, if I want to think about it now, I would think about a sector like the assembling sector now. which we are still going to look at anyways. It's one area that public-private partnership should really be encouraged, where a lot of international partnership is required, finance funding is required, and the role of government in bridging some gap in that sector through PPP might not be, something we need to overlook. And then industry associations now. It says strengthening association of motor repairs business can provide a platform for advocacy, skills development, and regulatory self-enforcement. And that's exactly what I just finished talking about, where you begin to scrutinize the association, and then the association can dive down to scrutinize their own members, such that if you do this, this is your fine. We track you down to ensure that you are doing the right thing. And I mean, it's quite a number of detail that would have given us a very good level of exposure in terms of what is actually happening in that sector. Hopefully, we've gotten one or two from this. Any comment on this before we proceed? Any comment? Okay.
No
Still
comment.
reading. Okay, great. Great. And then the next thing is Exhibit 3. Someone else. I think this should be short. How many pages? It's actually not short. It is 1, 2, and 3, and 4 pages. Okay, but someone can start. If you're tired, you can ask someone to pick it up. It's a 4 pages read in Exhibit 3. Let's read further.
Can you hear me?
Analysis of, okay.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead, Miriam. Is that you?
Okay. Exhibit 3, Analysis of Motor Vehicle Sales and Distribution Business in Nigeria, 2022 to 2025. Introduction. The Nigerian motor vehicle sales and distribution sector is a critical portion of the economy. As one of the continent's most populous nations, Nigeria's automotive industry reflects the broader economic, infrastructural, and regulatory trends that shape its commercial landscape. Since 2022, the sector has undergone substantial shifts, faced economic headwinds, evolving consumer preferences, and policy-driven reforms that collectively reshape the terrain for manufacturers, importers, and distributors. Market overview 2022 to 2025. Nigeria's automotive sector is predominantly import-driven, with a vast majority of vehicles, both new and used, sourced from Asia, Europe, and North America. Despite efforts to foster local assembly, the market remains reliant on imports due to cost advantages, limited manufacturing capacity, and consumer demand for affordable vehicles. Size and growth. Since 2022, Nigeria's motor vehicle market has experienced both moderate growth and volatility. In 2022, total annual vehicle sales made up of both new and used vehicles were estimated at around 280,000 units. The market was dominated by used vehicles, constituting more than 80% of sales. The new vehicle segment, severely impacted by scarcity of foreign exchange and high import duties, accounted for 10 to 15% of total sales. By 2023, a slight uptick in economic activities and modest improvements in infrastructure spurred a minor rebound. Nonetheless, the industry faced challenges such as persistent inflation, a depreciating naira, and increasing cost of finance for consumers and businesses. By 2024 and into 2025, the market's trajectory remained uncertain but demonstrated resilience, with projections estimating total annual sales growing to around 320,000 units by the end of 2025, assuming gradual economic stability. Key segments and distribution channels. A. Used vehicles, Tokumbo. These make up the largest segment, imported mainly from the United States of America, Europe, and Asia. Used cars are distributed through a network of dealers, independent resellers, and automats concentrated in major cities like Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. B. New vehicles. With international brands such as Changan, Geely, Kia, Honda, Hyundai, Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, Volkswagen, etc., the new vehicle segment is mainly served through authorized dealerships. However, high prices and limited access to credit confine their customer base to government agencies, corporates, and a small affluent consumer class. C. Local assembly. Despite policy incentives, locally assembled vehicles still account for a minor fraction of total sales due to limited production capacity and high input costs. Distribution structure. A. Authorized dealerships. Typically located in urban centers, these outlets represent international automakers and provide sales, financing, after-sales services, and warranties. They rely heavily on brand reputation and long-term relationship with corporate clients. B. Independent dealers. These actors dominate the used vehicle market, importing in bulk and reselling directly to consumers or through automats. C. Online platforms. The digitalization of commerce has seen the emergence of online marketplaces where consumers can browse, negotiate, and purchase vehicles with increased transparency and convenience. Key market drivers. A. Population growth and urbanization. Nigeria's population exceeds 237 million with a rapidly growing urban middle class. The need for mobility in expanding cities drives consistent demand for both personal and commercial vehicles. B. Infrastructural development. While public transit remains inadequate, investment in road infrastructure, especially in Lagos and Abuja, have encouraged private vehicle ownership. The improvement of expressways and urban roads has a direct impact on vehicle sales figures. C. Government policy and regulation. The Nigerian Automotive Industry Development Plan introduced incentives for local assembly and placed higher tariffs on fully built imports to stimulate domestic manufacturing. However, inconsistent enforcement and policy reversals have hindered the plan's effectiveness. D. Access to finance. Microfinance institutions and emerging automotive finance products are making vehicle ownership more accessible to consumers through high interest rates, and economic volatility remain barriers for many. Challenges facing the sector. A. Foreign exchange constraints. The Nigeria's depreciation and foreign currency shortages have significantly increased import costs, impacting both new and used vehicle prices. The exchange rate remains volatile, creating uncertainty for businesses reliant on imports. High import duties and tariffs. To protect domestic assemblers, the government imposed high tariffs up to 70% on some segments on fully built imported vehicles. While this was intended to boost local production, it resulted in higher vehicle prices and increased influx of low-quality used vehicles. C. Weak manufacturing base. Despite policy incentives, local assembly plants face high production costs, unreliable electricity, and limited economies of scale. Imported components and inconsistent supply chains further hamper their competitiveness. D. Smuggling and informal markets. Due to high tariffs and complex procedures, smuggling of vehicles through neighboring countries remains rare, undermining formal businesses and depriving the government of revenue. E. poor infrastructure and insecurity. Underdeveloped transport infrastructure and security challenges restrict distribution networks and increase logistical costs for distributors and dealers. Trends and opportunities 2022 to 2025. A. Digital transformation. Online sales platforms, digital financing solutions, and data-driven inventory management are reshaping vehicle distribution. The COVID-19 pandemic accelerated this trend, with consumers increasingly relying on online research and virtual showrooms. B. Local assembly and value addition. Ongoing investments are gradually increasing the share of locally assembled vehicles. Government procurement policies favoring local produced vehicles offer a growth opportunity, though significant scale-up is needed to compete with imports. C. Electric and alternative fuel vehicles. Though still in early stages, there is growing interest in electric vehicles and hybrid technologies, particularly for commercial fleets. Pilot projects and public awareness campaigns are underway, but infrastructure such as availability of charging stations and reliable electricity pose major hurdles. D. After-sales markets and value chain expansion. The growth of the Nigerian auto sector is driving demand for spare parts, servicing and maintenance. There are significant opportunities for business offering genuine parts, quality repair services, and complementary products such as insurance and fleet management solutions. Competitive landscape. The key players in the motor vehicle sales and distribution in Nigeria can be classified into indigenous and foreign-based companies. The market is further segmented into dealers in new vehicles, dealers in used vehicles, and dealers in both new and used vehicles. Folax Motors is one of the indigenous businesses selling both new and used vehicles in the sector. Projection and future outlook 2025 and beyond. The Nigerian motor vehicle sales and distribution business is projected to see cautious growth through 2025, with annual sales potentially reaching 320,000 units. Key drivers will include gradual economic recovery policy reforms aimed at encouraging local manufacturing, and the continued rise of digital sales and financing platforms. However, significant risks remain. Current volatility, inflation, and potential policy reversals could impact market stability. To unlock the sector's full potential, stakeholders are calling for 1. Consistent automotive policy implementation. 2. Expansion of auto financing solutions. 3. Investment in infrastructure and security. And 4. Capacity building and skills development for local assembly.
Oh, thank you. And that's another long reading, guys. And I hope we are still together. See, if you are really following, you will know that this reading is as is as important, is a key part of this class. Sincerely, is a key part, because I can't imagine you're spending time to read this again just because you haven't really familiarized yourself with this information. What I could pick so far is we have the motor repair subsector, which we've gone through. And then in Exhibit 3 is motor vehicle sales and distribution. Is that not? And that's the one you just finished reading, where they gave us this brief overview. They talked about the size, if you look at this, where they said about 250 units, 280,000 units. Look at it. They said the market was dominated by used vehicle, constituting 80% of sales. Wow, only few people are buying new vehicle. And then, although the number has increased and is expected to increase to 320 by end of 2025. And then you see a further breakdown here where they said the key segment is we've got a Tokumbo car, we've got new vehicle, and we've got the locally assembled one, like the one that is done by what's the name of that now?
Innocent.
Innocent, thank you. Like Innocent. And then we've gone here to talk about the distribution structure where you see a lot of authorized dealers, you see Toyota, big brand, especially when you go to areas like Ikeja, VI, Ikoyi, you see them everywhere. And then you also have independent dealers, which is the one that is actually more common, where even if you travel to other states outside Lagos or outside Abuja, you see many dealers. So that are not necessarily Toyota or Mercedes authorized dealers. And then you've also got online platforms. So if you want to buy a car now, there are online platform as well. And then they talked about the key drivers of the sector, which is population growth and urbanization. Everybody in Lagos, you want to avoid stress, you want to avoid robbery, you want to, you just want to buy a car, and that has made car to become a necessity in a place like Lagos or Abuja or other busy city. And that also presents opportunity for car sale business and even the population growth as well. As the population is growing, people want to use car, people want to buy car, and that's it. Infrastructure development is also a key driver, even though so most states now, as we get to have a better road, people are able to drive smooth, and it encourage them to buy a car. And then government policy and regulation, whether we like it or not, there have been few policies that try to encourage things in the sector around importation restriction, encouraging local assembling of car and stuff like that. We have seen it. And access to finance as well. In recent time, we are beginning to see finance being provided. I think I saw an advert where you buy a car. One of the celebrity was marketing an app where you can buy a car, buy other items, and pay gradually. So finance, like it is in the developed countries, is beginning to gain some strength in Nigeria. So hopefully with time we begin to have a system where people can comfortably buy a car, not necessarily until they have the total money. I mean, we also have challenges facing the sector, and you realize that I hope we are connected in this class. Stay connected though. What we looked at before was motor repair services, where we're talking about challenges. Let me take you back. Where we were talking about challenges like infrastructure constraint, access to finance, skills gap, and that's when it comes to things like repair, where bulk of larger percentage of people in that sector is the informal sector, like the normal roadside repairers and all. But what we are looking at here are the guys that are distributing, that are selling car. So if we are talking about challenges now, look at what their own challenges is looking like. Foreign exchange, because what is dominating that subsector is majorly imports. So it's normal for them to face FX issues. It's also normal for them to face import duties and tariff, right? Weak manufacturing base, that's the same thing we are talking about. So it's only nursing and few guys that assemble car locally. So we still need to grow and do more. And that's one of the biggest problem. Smuggling and the informal market. This is also very big in the market, and it's a very big challenge for that sector. A lot of us might know, especially, those of you that are living around Lagos or Ogun State, you might be familiar with all of these things that happen from all this Idiroko side, all those side where all these firewall guys, I think they call them firewall now, bringing cars every now and then without passing through the normal route. And a lot of things happen around that as a result of that, bringing in substandard, right? And at the same time, bring things that leaves the regulatory purview, basically, where government also loses revenue that they are supposed to generate from tariff and all of those incentives, all of those things. So smuggling is a big one as well. And then poor infrastructure, like we've discussed earlier. And then trends and opportunity, just like we talked about in the other subsector, very similar to this case as well. And then we talked about the competitive landscape, which is the fact that so in this sector, we've talked about the fact that there are people who deal with new cars, some deal with old car. And one key information they provided to you here is the fact that the company that we have seen, the company we are seeing here, that you are Sylvester and you are an accounting graduate right in the professional level, and you work as a trainee in Bagudu Ademola and Co. Chartered Accountant, right? And at the end of the day, they have not mentioned any company. They haven't given us information about any company. The only place we are seeing a company now is the fact that they said, no, it must have been mentioned before now. Let me go and look for where the mention was made. I need the first mention of Folak. Okay, maybe here anyways. Okay, maybe there, but in terms of the detail we are reading, this is the only place that it was, this is the first place rather that it was mentioned. And we need to take note of what they said. They said Folak Motor is one of the indigenous businesses selling both new and used vehicle in the sector. And this is coming from the fact that they've told you that they are both indigenous and foreign-based companies in that sector. And there are some of them that are also dealing with used, some are dealing with new, and some are dealing with both used and new. And they've told you that Folak is in both as an indigenous company. And then they've also presented the outlook here and what transformation the stakeholders are expecting in the sector. And that's it really. So one thing you need to take note of is that we've gone through that level of detail for two subsectors now, two different subsectors. The motor repair service sector, and then the motor vehicle sale and distribution subsector. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
All right. So someone else, exhibit 4. Hopefully this is shorter. Yeah, this is very short, 2 pages. Exhibit 4 now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
So I can't see the exhibit. Or is this the beginning? Kitchen, okay. Analysis of motor repairs, service centers, and spare parts sales in Nigeria. Introduction. Nigeria has a rapidly expanding automotive sector. The growing demand for personal and commercial transportation has led to the proliferation of motor repairs, service centers, and spare parts sales retailers across the nation. Overview of the automotive after-sales market in Nigeria. The automotive after-sales market in Nigeria encompasses a wide array of services, including vehicle repairs, routine maintenance, and the sales of spare parts. The sector is largely driven by the aging vehicle population, importation of used vehicles, and challenging road and environmental conditions that accelerate vehicle wear and tear. Most vehicles in Nigeria are imported, with a significant portion being used cars, further intensifying the demand for maintenance and replacement parts. Motor repairs. Motor repairs workshops range from informal roadside mechanics to formalized branded service centers. Informal operators dominate the market, offering cost-effective solutions, but often lacking advanced diagnostics tools and standardized practices. Formal workshops, typically affiliated with car manufacturers or franchises, are concentrated on major urban centers. These centers provide higher quality service, access to genuine parts, and better trained personnel, but their services are often more expensive. Service center. Service centers in Nigeria are evolving, with more dealerships and manufacturers establishing authorized service facilities. These centers offer comprehensive maintenance packages, warranty services, and customer support. However, their reach is limited, and many vehicle owners still rely on independent workshops for routine maintenance due to cost and accessibility. There is a growing trend towards digitization, with some service centers adopting online booking, customer relationship management, and telematics to enhance service delivery. Spare parts sales. The spare parts market in Nigeria is extensive and fragmented. It includes both genuine original equipment manufacturer (OEM) parts and after-sales market non-OEM alternatives. The prevalence of counterfeit and substandard parts is a persistent challenge, often resulting in compromised safety and vehicle performance. Major spare parts markets serve as hubs for distribution. The rise of e-commerce platforms is gradually transforming the sector, making it easier for customers to access a wider range of products, compare prices, and verify authenticity. Can you scroll up, sir? Key challenges. The major challenges in the subsector include: A. Counterfeit parts. The influx of fake and substandard parts undermines consumer trust and vehicle safety. B. Skills gap. Many mechanics lack formal training, leading to inconsistent service quality. C. Infrastructure. Poor road condition and inadequate workshop facilities hamper efficient service delivery. D. Import dependency. Heavy reliance on imported vehicles and parts exposes the sector to currency fluctuation and supply chain disruption. E. Regulatory oversight. Weak enforcement of standards and regulation exacerbates the proliferation of counterfeit goods and unqualified service providers. Opportunities. The subsector presents the following opportunities: A. Training and certification. Investment in skills development and certification programs can improve service quality and industry reputation. B. Digital platforms. E-commerce and digital service management tools offer new avenues for growth and customers' engagement. Localization. Encouraging local manufacturing and assembling of spare parts can reduce import dependency and create jobs. D. Partnerships. Collaborations between manufacturers, service centers, and training institutes can drive industry standards and innovation. Future outlook. The motor repairs, service center, and spare parts sales sector in Nigeria is poised for growth, driven by increased vehicle ownership and urbanization. However, realizing the sector's full potential requires addressing the challenges of counterfeit parts, skills, infrastructure gaps, and regulatory enforcement. The integration of technology and investment in quality assurance will be critical in shaping a sustainable and competitive automotive after-sales market in Nigeria. New entrants into the motor repairs, service center, and spare parts sales could potentially be companies that buy and sell new and used vehicles, such as Folak Motors.
And this is, thank you for reading. And this is the second place that Folak Motors was mentioned, right? Am I correct?
Correct.
Yes, sir,
In the
you're
detail.
correct.
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's take note of it again. It says new entrants into the motor repair service center are and spare parts sale could potentially be companies that buy and sell new vehicles such as Polak Motors. And then after which they give us financial statement, and then here come to an end of the precinct. See, if you look at time, you will see that we have invested a lot of time in reading this detail. And what I'm just going to do is to re-summarize the last exhibit 4, where it looks like they actually presented what you had in exhibit 2 in a summary form, but they emphasized on some things, if you notice. So if you look at it here now, this is just the normal overview. They now specifically talked about motor repairs. They talked about service center, and they talked about spare parts sale, right? Now, let me go back to the beginning. And sorry, exhibit 2 now. Exhibit 2 is in Nigerian economy, and then they brought it down the structure of the service sector, and then motor repair services, right? Where we actually discussed most of those details. And then they came here to talk about motor vehicle sales and distribution. And then there was something we highlighted at the end of it that says Folak is one of the indigenous business selling both new and old vehicle. So Folak falls in this category. Is that not? It falls under this exhibit 3. Are you with me? Sales and distribution of old and new vehicle. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if that is the case, so after they mentioned Folak here and projection here, so they now went further to say analysis of motor repair service centers and spare parts sales in Nigeria. And then they did a reintroduction, which looks like a repetition, but we saw some emphasis where they talked about this. And I need you to read this heading.
Overview.
Just that heading.
Overview of the automotive
Automotive
after-sales markets in
after-
Nigeria.
Okay. So overview of the after-sale market, right? And what they captured there in here is nothing different from what has been talked about under this exhibit 2. I'm just paying so much attention to the fact that there was a specific categorization, right, to brief you on some things it looks like we need to pay attention to. Motor repair, service center, spare part. Okay. And then, they summarized the key challenges, which looks like those things we went through up there. Opportunities, and the future outlook. And they also concluded that part by saying what? I need somebody to read. They highlighted in yellow.
New entrants into the motor repair service center and spare parts sales could potentially be companies that buy and sell new and used vehicles, such as Fulak Motors.
All right. So you need to know how to read your Preseen and be reading. We are trying to read the mind of the examiner now. We're trying to read the mind of the examiner. Okay. We'll come back to read. Let's take maybe a 5-10 minutes to play with the final, to look at the exhibit 5 before we go back. While you are thinking about all those pointing, all those pointers. Okay, so they gave us the financial statement for 2 years, 2023 and 2024. And I actually had a difference when I was computing this. I imported these numbers. And let me unshare and clear out all of these things that someone wrote on my screen. Let me know when you can see my screen again.
We can see it now, sir.
All right. So I imported this figure into Excel. Let me just change this to net income. 2023 looks okay, but 2024 was supposed to be a loss. But they put 58,000. And I think the error came from where now? Other loss. What happened now? Okay. And we had our balance sheet. Before we even start scrutinizing this financial statement, so far so good. Tell me what you're thinking. But let me take a lead. And I will take a lead on the easiest part, first of all. And taking a lead, I would go back to my JD. And I would say, looking at what we are seeing so far, financial statement analysis looks like something that has a high probability. And it might make sense to start saying, if we have 2023 and 2024 unaudited, what if I get into the exam hall and they give me more years? Maybe forecast 2025. Or you cannot have 2025 management account. We are still in 2025 now. Yes, we are still in 2025. So you cannot have 2025 management account or a complete account. So the only possible thing you probably get in terms of additional financial statement, as far as Polak is concerned, is maybe a forecast financial for 2025, except if they then want to give you budget for future years like 2026. So is either you get the 2023, 2024 unaudited and work with for Polak as you have it, or the add forecast. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. So on that note then, if I think about this sector, The ratio might look like an easy one as well because it says you are tasked with preparing a detailed financial analysis on the performance of your clients, involves gathering relevant data, rigorous analysis, presenting your findings in a clear and structured manner to aid decision making. Your role includes analyzing the company's financials to identify areas of weaknesses and anomalies and develop and recommend solutions aimed at correcting deficiencies and improving financial health. And see, what you need to do might not even exceed these 4 areas. And we can already say maybe we should look at the ratios you need to compute. So you can decide to keep, you don't even need to compute all these ratios. You can decide to do ROCE you can keep. Sorry. You can keep ROCE. Let me look at the financial statement, this. Because of the way the bottom line is, gross profit margin might be important in this case. Or no. I think operating margin, which we normally call net profit margin anyways, but in this case, that's net profit margin. Yeah. So in this case, you might want to compute 3 ratios. Net profit margin. I'm creating ratios for you now. So I can compute return on capital employed, net profit margin, and net income margin. This one you can call it net operating profit margin. Net operating profit margin. Create your ratio. That's one thing about ratio, is very beautiful. You can create asset turnover. Maybe ROE might not be necessary. So how do we calculate this ratio? Tell me, guys, what's return on capital employed? I won't compute for you. Please go and compute. Let's talk about, but let me talk about what I mean by net operating margin. Net operating profit margin should be this divided by this. Am I correct? And the net income margin would be this and this. And then what are you picking as your capital employed? Hmm? So you can decide to say capital employed is your earnings before interest and tax, which is this. Is that not? Divided by what do you want to work with as your capital employed?
Equity.
I can see non-current liability now.
Total equity plus non-current.
So you can do non-current, or somebody can choose to make assumption and pick only long-term debt. And this will be valid. And that's one thing about ratio. You just need to understand it and be comfortable with what you're calculating. And you're good. This company is crawling on the floor. What's all these numbers looking like? But the revenue is high now. Anyways, it looks like The margin is very low. Anyways, that's for you to discuss in your report. Asset turnover would be what? Turnover of assets. Is that correct? Which would be this? Divided by, you need to ensure you use the same capital employed. This plus this now. Hey, why am I picking total equity and liability? Hope that's not what I picked under ROC. Let me check. Yeah, that's wrong. Should be equity. Yep. Any question on that? Profitability. Just to give you
Yes, I have.
Abiola.
Yes,
Go ahead.
sir. Okay, so my question is, did they tell us any reason why their cost of sale is high? And also, I joined the class, I think 30 minutes earlier. I don't know if you've explained this JD before.
30 minutes earlier?
30 minutes late. I was 30 minutes late, so I don't know. They
You have
read
to go and listen
exhibit
to the
one.
videos.
Okay, so I can ask question on exhibit 1 again.
Yes, please. Except if you are lucky for us to discuss anything relating to it.
Okay. So I
Sorry.
wanted, okay, sir. Okay, so, let me stick to the second one. So the second question is, okay, so did they tell us any reason why the cost of sales is high? Or are we supposed to use our residual knowledge of knowing that the
The-
reason why cost of sales is high, or is it in the exhibits to make reference to?
There might be additional information in the exam, which is one thing we need to discuss. So there is one thing that happened this diet that has never happened before. In this your diet, there is something that happened that have never happened before. This is the first diet that they did not give you any information about the company you are working on, except this financial statement. Yeah, and that's why you see that where I saw little information now, I'm reading it again and again and again. And where are those two areas I highlighted? This, which is the first place that they mentioned Folak Motors, right? And then the second place is this. Guys, please take note. This was not usually the case. Is that clear? So they are a bit stingy to you, this diet. So let's see how it turns out. Okay, but it's totally fine. Are we still together?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but to answer your question, there might be more information, but of course, before we get more information in the exam, we'll just definitely analyze on a very high level. So in terms of why their cost is very high, it is also for us to apply those information they've given us regarding the industry. It could be responsible to why the margin is so low, which is why the operating cost or cost of sales is so high. In terms of efficiency, what are we looking at? Have they got inventory, payable and receivable? Yes. So you can do this and you should be able to do it. Let's not bother doing it for you. This should be pretty straightforward. Inventory turnover period. What's the formula again? Guys, what's inventory turnover period?
Average inventory over cost of sales.
Cost of sales.
Average inventory divided by cost of sales times, let's say 365, right? And that would give you this. So you can repeat the same thing for trade receivable and payable. Receivable turnover period and payable turnover period. You can note the full meaning of these abbreviations as we are talking about them, please. ROCE is return on capital employed. NOPM is net operating profit margin. NIM is net income margin. Asset turnover is 80. ITP is inventory turnover period, receivable turnover period, and payable turnover period. Is that clear?
Please take it again. You're too fast.
Return on capital employed. Net operating profit margin. Net income margin. Asset turnover. Then inventory turnover period. Receivable turnover period. And payable turnover period.
Thank you.
And then let's talk about liquidity generally. So liquidity, do you want to do much there? If not, you might just want to look at current ratio and move on. And that's just your current asset over current liability. Case study, you don't usually have time. That's why you don't want to be exploring ratio, because you know how to compute ratio. So where is our current asset? This now. Over current liability. At least is above 1 in both years, although it looks like there's a drop, but you should be able to clearly interpret in your report. Does that make sense? Let me delete this one so that you will not think it's a calculated number. So you need to calculate those two. Or do you want us to populate that? What is average receivable period? Okay, we'll come back if we have time. Let's talk about gearing. In fact, gearing, just do 2. 2 is okay. Don't that this is on the assumption that they did not specifically tell you the ratios to compute. I hope you are aware that this is if they just ask you to compute to analyze the financial performance generally, then you can do all this computation. So debt to equity ratio obviously will be, it might make sense to use this over equity. Very simple. Look at my screen. Are you comfortable with that? Are you happy with this?
Yes.
Good. Oh, well, it's plenty. Okay. It looks like they fund the business majorly with long-term debt, and it's clear here. It's very clear, right? The other thing is they have huge payable, but that's also coming from the fact that they have huge receivable and inventory. Okay. So interest cover is the number of times your EBIT, which is this, can cover your interest. Is that not? Are you happy with this? If you're happy, We leave it this way, and that's about 4 times. Did it drop? No, it improved. Yeah, and those might be a key ratio based on what we've seen so far, right? So any question on what we've done so far on this, please? And please bear with me, I'm having heavy cold, so I'm just managing. You can see the way I'm talking. Any question, guys?
No question from my end, sir.
All right.
Sir, I have a question.
Yep.
This 2024, the interest expense and other loss and the income before tax, will they correct it or is going to remain like this? Are they going to correct this error or are we going to have it like this?
I mean, that's one very first thing you want to check in your exam. To see whether it's actually an error or not, because one way or the other, since the Preseen was released, they have gotten to the ears of the examiners and they'll be aware before the exam. And if it is an error from the exam perspective now, it's possible that it's corrected. So that's one thing you want to have a look at and say, did they update it? And if they've updated it, you're good to go to update your calculation. If they leave it that way, so is one thing you need to consider and doubt the entire financial statement in the first place. And you have every right to doubt the financial statement. Don't forget that it is part of your responsibility to identify ethical issues. And part of ethical issues is when there is doubtful or you suspect any form of creative accounting. Although it might be an error from them in the financial statement preparation. I mean, you need to follow what I'm saying. So the first thing I said is that it is possible for it to be an error from the exam perspective. If that is the case, let's watch out to know on the exam. If they leave it like that in the exam and they also did not see anything about it inside the exam, then forget about it being an error from the exam perspective. Take it as a possible error or what now? Creative or maybe doubtful accounting issue from FOLAC perspective. And like I said, you have every reason to doubt. And that might be something important to discuss under other issues. Considering the fact that the financial statement you are dealing with in the first place is unaudited. Does that make sense? So I would like to see it in your other issues when you write the report. So for now, let's assume that it's coming from the question. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Simon, what error?
You said what?
The error, is it, you explained something about the error. Is in what part?
The financial statement. You can see the reported profit, right? For 2024. Can you see that?
I can see.
But if you check what we recalculated for 2024, it's showing a negative 3640.
Oh. So when we are in the exam hall, we're supposed to compute the whole figure together and get what is there and see if it's correct.
No. I've said it that when you are inside the exam hall, it is one thing for you to check if these numbers have been updated from what you saw in the Preseen. Right? If it was updated, fine. Everything is now looking good. Is that not it?
Yeah.
Okay. But if it is not updated, right? What we will take it as is that you observed that this number is not correct or did not really align in this computation. and you would see it as an error that you've noted. Whether that is an intentional error or not, maybe they might give you another information now in the exam, which will signal that. But we're saying those might, so you will still go ahead to still do your computation with whatever you are presented with in the exam, meaning here now I'm supposed to just put 72,300 here, right? So if I adjust this back to 72,300, if we work with the number we have, then this will change to this. In fact, even this one is 58,940, right? And that would change the entire number. I think I need to update this change, so it should be the other way around because I've moved it. So you have to work with whatever you see at the end of the day in the exam, but you must point out this issue if it remains, if this error remains, it's something big to discuss in your other issues. Is that clear? So that we can move on.
Yes, it's clear.
All right. So any other question? Where are we? I think any other question on the ratio bit? Where we are is that we've said let's suggest these ratios to ourselves for now while we wait for other information. Possible information is maybe they can even add forecast for 2025 or they leave it as it is. Or maybe FOLAC is just one of the companies you are going to be dealing with. Maybe they will add more in the exam that you also need to analyze either separately or together. Let's see. But at the end of the day, it is for you to calm down and compute your ratios. And from what we have seen, it's very likely that you are going to be computing ratios and analyze financial statements. And that's where we are. So in conclusion, really, in your Preseen report, you are expected to do a ratio computation, at least to show the change and the common size and compute these basic ratios and be able to speak to these numbers in terms of what has happened between 2023 and 2024. And to be able to explain maybe some reasons for the changes, I think the only thing you can leverage on right now is your understanding of the industry. If there are some of the numbers that you think it is the industry information that is driving it, feel free to use it as an explanation from what we've read so far. And I think that should close the number bit. Any question before we go to the other part? Questions, guys?
Sorry, how are we supposed to structure our report since we don't have any information about FOLAC, since they didn't give us any introductory message? Are we just meant to just write information about the analysis and that's all?
No, you write what you have now. You have a lot about FOLAX already. It's not just as usual. At least you have information to tell you that FOLAC Nigeria Limited is an automobile company that is into that is an indigenous automobile company that is into sale and distribution of both new and used car. And you can add that from maybe by the time we are done with the second part of the simulation now, you are probably all able to add that they are considering whatever it is that they are considering, that you're able to simulate at the end of the day. And that can be a short 2-paragraph for your intro. And before you know it, you add your limitation paragraph and then you proceed to just go straight to financial analysis. And then after financial analysis, whatever you want to do on the other part, that will simulate. And that's it. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Mr. Simon.
Yes, I'm with you.
Sorry. I just want to find out, is it possible for them to bring another company and say probably the company wants to, like Folak wants to acquire or merge with the company and then ask us to see if it's a good merger or acquisition? I don't
Very,
know.
very
Is
possible,
it possible?
because very, very possible. And that's one of the things we might probably identify when we start discussing the other bits now, because we need to start questioning why they didn't give us much information about Folak. It's possible that this Folak they gave you, Sef, is just a company that maybe the main company they will now give you in the exam is probably considering acquiring Folak or partnering with Folak. It could be anything. It has happened in one diet that they gave them information about a company, and then in the exam they actually gave them information about another company, and they are now analyzing two companies. It has happened before, so beware. And that's why it's very, very important to have an open mind. If I have closed your mind by telling you that, oh, this thing is all about Folak, and all you've rested your mind on is that it is Folak you're going to deal with in the exam, and also probably cram even these numbers, once they hit you with anything different than from that, it hits you very hard, and you don't want that to happen. Does that make sense? So your mind must be very open, and the most important thing is that you are already very comfortable with analyzing your ratios, and you've also drawn a map to say, if they like, let them add 2025 estimated to Folak. I'll just do this additional computation. Is that not it? Or if they like, they should add another company that is into repair and all of those that they are considering merging or partnering with. You are probably doing similar ratios for those ones, if ratio is required or not. So we must have our mind open to those things. Are we together? Are we?
Yes, we are.
Yes, sir. That's good.
All right. So any
I
other
have a
question on the
question.
numbers?
I have a question.
Yep.
The change and common size. How did you get the common size? I feel maybe the change is the trend analysis, but I don't know how to get the common size analysis.
Common size. Don't worry. I mean, I assume that everybody attended our case study class, which we said we were going to assume at the beginning. So common size analysis is just a analysis where you express all the items in the financial statement as a percentage of a base item. A base item in this case would be revenue. So you see cost of sales as a percentage of revenue is showing 85%. And this is where you can already get a picture that what these guys are getting as revenue, they are incurring 85% of it as cost of sales. That's huge. Before you incur your other expenses, before you pay salary, this is not fair on that sector. But it is what it is. So common size gives you that. Again, common size is just an approach where you express all the item in the financial statement as a percentage of a base item, which in this case is revenue. Does that make sense now?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so before we dive further on the other bit, can we have a 3-minute break? Is that fine?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so welcome back, guys. Okay, so if that concludes tentatively what we need to do on the financial statement analysis. What we'll just do is to leave it and then come back to wrap up our conclusion. And also if there's any other question when we are done with the other part, right? Now, on the other part, let me ask you, what do you think from what you have seen so far? What do you see yourself doing in the exam? What are the things that are coming to your mind from what we've read so far? Or nothing is coming to mind?
Maybe something around taxation. I don't know. Because I'm wondering why we'll have a negative income tax in 2024. Maybe tax planning or something.
I think this one even looks normal, like a normal tax expense, but this is the one that is like a tax credit. 2023 one looks like a tax credit. But I know it's part of the JD that you'll be advising on tax and all of those. So, okay, so you said it is possible we have something on taxation. Okay. What are you guys thinking?
So,
like, we have something on exchange rates since I think they deal with the both imported cars. We have something on exchange rates so for imported cars.
Exchange rates.
Thinking
In what sense now? Like, is it like them asking you to do anything on exchange rate?
Yes, yes, like calculations, yes.
Okay. Yep.
so also on the
I'm thinking investment appraisal.
Investment. Appraisal.
Then
Sorry, I didn't hear what the last person said.
Prestel.
Pastel. Okay, so let's keep that separate now. So if you are looking at from the case we've read, so if you're thinking of models that you're likely to face, I've heard Pastel. So be giving me either on this side or the other side now.
What was all these market entry strategies? And I think that was mentioned in the one of the exhibits we read.
So which model is that?
More like the Potter 5.
About
Because they
5
mentioned new
Yes, yes,
entrants.
this barrier to entry, exactly, yes.
That's fine.
Also, strategy.
Hands off. What else?
SWOT.
What else?
Financial statement analysis.
I know we've concluded on that. I think that's the first one we identified. which is the numbers to say, for example,
We're listing everything all over
possible.
again.
Yeah, so that's like one. So this one is for us to simulate the other parts, basically. Yeah. And bearing in mind this now, because while we are mentioning model, it doesn't look like analyzing environment or anything is part of your JD, but I'm just thinking.
I think we might be giving assumptions to create forecasts as well, because I can see analytical reports on them, forecasting.
Forecast performance or forecasts for what now? You know, just like I was trying to say earlier, that a lot of time forecast is linked to when you're doing investment for appraisal, for example, you're likely to do forecast of what your cash flows are going to be in those future years. And that's part of forecast. The other angle you could think of forecast is if they give you information to forecast what the position could probably be in 2025 or even maybe 2026 for your financial statement. So those are possible ways of asking you for forecast. Well, let me just leave it. Forecast. Okay. Any other area? Anything coming to mind? Anything at all?
Anything around strategy?
So there's something coming to mind around the AD that says assessment of business proposal, where we assessing the strategic choice, strategic alliance, and all of that to grow the entire services sector. I don't think that counts.
Sorry, I didn't capture that properly.
So I said that I'm just looking around the third JD where we have analysis of business proposal.
Yeah.
So if they can ask us something about strategic choice, strategic alliance to grow businesses in the energy sector and the car services sector.
Okay.
Or strategic formulation?
Okay. So what I picked from what you said is maybe possibility of having proposal relating to alliance or partnership, where maybe someone is presenting something to you in area you are probably looking to go into, and maybe do you want to partner or there's a way and all of that and and it could also be a plug from outside the country, you know. That's what I could pick. Okay, I think someone else was saying something. I'm just trying to document whatever is coming to mind before we streamline or start to streamline.
Sorry, do you have anything around ESG in this case? Sustainability.
So sustainability, just like it was examined last diet. Any other thing coming to mind?
So I'm thinking we might have something to do with panel registration because
So
of part that they said something about Folak being a potential new entrant into the repairs, the motor vehicle repairs sector.
Okay, so maybe we'll just expand this first one to say tax planning and incentives, and then hopefully we can discuss that further. Okay. Any other thing coming to mind? First off is, it looks like they gave you a lot of details about the economy, the industry. It was quite a lot. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
But why will they give me a lot of information around the, in fact, challenges of this, the opportunities of this, the key drivers of this and that of that, the features, everything? But in my JD, assessment of business will assess various operational and strategic business proposals, evaluating how each client objective, client business and risk, use this and all of that, evaluation of forecast and assumption, you're also to examine. So by the time you look at it very well, I can't see any responsibility that says you are to do environmental assessment now. And that might be questioning some models already. Models like SWOT or PESTEL might be in question. If we go by this, your JD, it's very slim to get PESTEL or SWOT. But then again, if we go by the information you've been provided with, those information are a lot. Another model that is coming to my own mind is actually Porter's Diamond. And that's because if I look at the car sale and distribution, in fact, if I look at all the sectors generally, if you are considering talking about, let's say, car manufacturing or car assembling now, Porter's Diamond might be a very key model to understand why, or to look at the situation with why those companies in Nigeria might not be able to do well compared to their own to the counterparts in China, Japan, and other countries that are doing so well in this area. So don't rule out Porter's Diamond, please. But then again, like I said, if we go by your JD, the chance of having these models like PESTEL, SWOT might really be slim. So what I would do is, if I move those ones to the last, right? What if we rank the models like this? And the reason I'm picking answer first is that it looks like these guys are they are looking to enter. They might be considering going beyond car sales, selling used and new car. And we've seen it in one of those statements that we highlighted. And if they are diversifying completely, if they are diversifying completely, that would fall under answer for you to discuss. If they are developing within this same sector, if they are going into repair, for example, what can we call that? if they are going into repair and service and all of that? Is that a product development or a market development?
Diversification.
Market development.
Product development.
We've said so many things, but I think it's product development, where they are developing new market development would be if we are talking about location now. Maybe they are considering expanding to some location, but throughout this case study, it wasn't really based on location. It has been based on, from everything we've seen so far, it has been based more on the services, expanding the scope and stuff like that. So someone's ranking might be different. In fact, for me, I might even consider, if I'm to be the examiner and I want to examine this industry, the model I'll be interested in the students exploring is Potter's Diamond. Because before this class, I extracted out something here for you to look at. A typical Potter's Diamond. Can you see my screen? Potter's Diamond screen.
Yes, sir.
Where you have 4 factors. Factors, condition, it looked at. It says these are input of resources a country possesses to produce goods or services. This includes skill, labor and education, infrastructure, road and power, technology and innovation, natural resources. And I see a lot of those things already discussed in that case, which you might be able to capture under the factor condition in the home market. Right? Demand condition now, it says nature and sophistication of domestic demand for an industry's product or service. When local consumers are demanding and sophisticated firm are pressured to innovate and improve, preparing them to compete globally. Example is Japan demanding car buyers helped by Japanese automakers like Toyota and Hyundai and Honda and all of those. In the case of Nigeria, one thing about demand is that the population, which the case study also spoke about, gives you that market. And the other subsectors that we have also discussed gives you that demand in the home market. So you can be rest assured that demand can never be a problem. Related and supporting industry now, the presence of strong supplier industry and related sector that support innovation and efficiency. Close cooperation between manufacturers, suppliers, related, and all of these guys. Example, Germany's world-class auto supplier like Bosch supports its car manufacturers like BMW and Mercedes, which might not be the case for Nigeria. And it might be something to identify in this case, which might be an issue for that industry. Another one is firm strategy, structure, and rivalry. How companies are created, organized, and managed, plus the nature of domestic competition. Intense local rivalry drives continuous improvement and innovation. And we can cite example of what has happened between Apple, Google, and Microsoft. We even see the same thing going on around AI right now, where, it is what it is. And apart from these 4 major elements of the Potter's Diamond, one thing that is also very key from the 2 supporting external factors in the Potter's Diamond is the role of government, right? Which says government can influence all those 4 determinant factors through their policies. You want to talk about education, infrastructure, research and development, and even imports or other trade policies. Should act as a catalyst rather than as a controller of the industry performance. And then the last one is chance. External event, random event like natural disaster, technological breakthrough or global crisis. And this is just to, tell us that if I am to be the examiner, what I will see to be the most appropriate model for this kind of subject, this kind of industry is Potter's diamond. Is Potter's diamond. So what I've done, because a lot of people, and because they have never examined Potter's diamond before in case study, is the only reason I took time to highlight, to bring this out and summarize it in a way that if they catch you by surprise, let every other person be surprised, but not you. So that's what I've done here, literally. So we will include Potter's diamond in our model simulation. So answer Potter's diamond before we consider maybe ensure that we also revise your Potter's 5 forces and pestle and sword. So, but if I look at your JD, like I have said, your JD is not favoring any of these two. Your JD, if you are talking about strategic aspect of it now, it might actually favor Ansoff, because if you look at this part where it says strategic business proposals, operational, it might really favor Ansoff, which is why I had to rank Ansoff first. So at the end of the day, Potter's 5 forces might even have a limited chance, really. And that's because Potter's 5 forces emphasize on your customer, your supplier, and all of those things. And at the end of the day, there have not been so much emphasis on customers, suppliers, even competition. It was just a few mentioned, but not a quick mention, but not like emphasis on competition or rivalry in the industry. So it's not like, you will see that it's not like the competition in the industry is majorly driven by local competition. It is more of an external force, external issue. Lack of skills compared to what is obtainable out there from other countries. Lack of innovation, compared to what is obtainable outside the country, which is why I am really supporting Potter's diamond, but I'm not your examiner. So, and then again, if we consider that this is not in your JD, it lowers the chance of all of these things being tested. But when you are writing your own report, I would prefer you choose any of these two. If you have time, do both. But you can choose to explore these two in those reports. If you go by Ansoff was tested in a very recent diet. You can reference it. Potter's diamond is the only one that have not been tested in case study before. If you need any help, reference this note here. I'm going to share it with you. And you can see that I was using some examples there which can help you, and you can already relate it with all the cases. For example, see, there was a place that specifically talked about government. Let me go and show you. Look at this. The role of government. So, if they bring Potter's diamond, it will be, with what I've summarized here for you, it will be a very easy win. That part will be a very easy win for you. Am I correct?
Yes, you
No.
are.
It's just for you to, for example, everything you need to discuss under government now is for you to be picking your point from this, from all of these aspects. What government have done, what they can do, in terms of policy formulation, speak English, make sure your English is Englishing very well, right? Public-private partnership, what they have done, what you think they have done. If they have done nothing, yeah, they have done nothing. If they have done any, mention. If there is anything you think they can do, mention. Industry association, these are things that we've discussed extensively, how they can work with the associations, and all of those. So it will be a very robust model for you to use if they bring it. If they bring Ansoff as well, which is what I expect you to explore in the Preseen. You'll be focusing on, you'll be focusing on the 4 elements of Ansoff, which is penetration, market development, product development, and diversification. So, and the one that might easily relate to this area is considering diversification, market development, or product development. Penetration, yeah, obviously, penetration will just be a case of you doing more. So you can still say something across all of these 4. Okay. So that's it on the model side. Now, before we go further on this side, anything, any comments, any question on model generally? Or you can also tell me, are we really together?
Okay, so I have a question. Sorry, I didn't raise my hand initially.
Yeah.
So with regards to model, you see that in the examination, in the question in the examination, they can specify that we should use a particular model to do the analysis. Is that a possibility that they gave us a specific model to work on or to work with?
Hi, Mr. Simeon, you're speaking on mute. We can't hear anything more. Because you're here.
Oh my God. Thank you, Glory. Thank you. Oh my God. Okay. So I was saying that's to Ahmed. So I was actually saying that these are things that we've discussed extensively, during the course of our lecture. A question can specifically ask you to use a model, right? And a question can also be open to, for example, we have seen several questions that we ask you using a particular model, Pestel, SWOT, or Ansoff, and all of that. And we have also seen questions that will tell you analyzing the environment. So, if they make it open, then you are to use your initiative to select a model that you think is appropriate. So, but in recent time, it's either they don't give you anything that have to do with model, or they give you a model and tell you the model to use. Shikina.
All right, thank you, boss.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if there's any other question on model before we discuss the other bit.
Sorry, Mr. Simon, please. So for this particular case study, are you saying we should only make use of Ansoff or Potter's Diamond and ignore the other 3?
So I said these are the 5 possible models that we have identified. It's good to listen so that you not go and misunderstand me. So that will not go out, you will not go and put me in trouble. So these are the 5 possible models that we have identified. Based on the discussion, I said, let me rank them with you guys in the order that we think is more likely to be tested. And we said, oh, maybe answer first, Potter's Diamond next, 5 forces next, Pestle, and SWOT last. In this order. At the end of the day, you can get to the exam and it will be Pestle. We don't want you to be surprised because you know that at least there is a probability. The only thing is that it's probably number 4 in your ranking. Yeah, it's not a must you are correct with your ranking. The most important thing is that you've literally seen that there is some tendency of having Pestle. Do you get my point? But for the purpose of writing your Preseen report, the report you're going to submit to me for your review to get you ready and more familiar with this case, we said focus on either of these 2 models. Like for our own now, for our own report review, focus on either of these 2 models. If you have enough time, you can choose to explore both in your report, the Preseen report. So that's what I said. Is it clear now?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. While you are riding on those 2 or any of those 2, you still need to bear it in mind that it could even be SWOT at the end of the day. So yeah. On to the next is this. How many hours have we used in this class?
It's almost 3 hours.
Okay.
We started around 8, so almost 3 hours.
This is 10:51, right? So 3 hours would
Yes.
be 11.
Yes.
Okay. So I would say let's try to finish between 20-minute time and 30-minute time. Let's wrap up. So nothing much. Financial statement analysis side, that one looks like it's a bit straightforward for you to know what to do as far as the Preseen is concerned. Let's wait for what they are bringing up in the unseen. In terms of strategic models, we've said these are the likely models that can come your way. Open your mind to all of them, but in the Preseen, play with this. Ansoff model, I believe you are very familiar with it. In fact, it was tested in recent time if you need to reference it when you're writing your own report or you check your pack. Potter's Diamond, that's the one that have not been tested in case study before. You can also use the study text, other study text to review that. But I've basically summarized it here for you in a way that is very easy for you to reference. It is not for you to copy what we have here. It's for you to use this as a guide so that you know, for example, government. Now look at what we said. Government can influence through policy, education, infrastructure, and all of these stories. And we said what you will be doing when you are talking under government is that you'll be leveraging on this information, for example, to talk about maybe policy formulation, in the association of automobile repairer, speak reality. That's what we are saying, that's it. And that's the same thing you are going to do across those models if you are speaking on Potter's Diamond. Yeah. And then the next thing we want to look at is the other bit, which is the fact that in your JD, we can see clearly that there is an assessment of proposal here. There is forecast here. And there is tax planning here. So we might just want to focus on these 3 JD and see how we can, see what is likely out of all these things that you have listed, or maybe there are even more that you have omitted. So give me another 2 minutes and we can continue, please. Is that fine?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Thank you.
Can't hear you again. No.
We'll be right back. We asked for 2 minutes.
Hello. Sorry, I'm back.
Yeah,
Can
yes.
anyone hear me?
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
can hear you clearly.
All right. So, yeah, so we're just trying to drive this last part and see the fact that we have this industry, just like I was telling you about Potter's Diamond. This industry that I can see that they are testing, with the fact that they said strategic tax planning and advice here as part of your JD, it makes this a very possible thing to be examined. Very possible. Very possible. Right? That you have something to do around taxation, advising, and all of that. So we might really want to keep an eye on that, right? Whether you will be doing calculation now is, maybe very slim chance of having to do calculation relating to taxation, because even tax planning as a topic, there is no calculation, right? Except the fact that there are topics connected to tax planning and all, so which is still for you to open your mind to. So tax planning is actually looking possible. And then the other bit is exchange rate. And if I get your point here, when someone mentioned exchange rate, it looks like the only part we saw exchange rate is those guys that import, the subsector that deals with import a lot. And it might just be one of those factors that you need to discuss. For example, if you find yourself doing Potter's Diamond, exchange rate will be a big discussion. If you find yourself doing even SWOT pastel, exchange rate will be a big discussion. So when it comes to the other specific requirements, right? You might not have any specific thing to do with exchange rate. So I would, things like exchange rate, I'll probably move it down, 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 or probably delete it to say, oh, it's not like, you know. But then the other bit is the fact that they said assessment of proposal, right? And if you look at this now, and with what they said here, that FOLAC is one of the indigenous business selling both new and used vehicle in the sector. That means FOLAC currently sell new and used vehicle. So what could it be for the future now? It's possible that in the exam, they are now telling you FOLAC is considering so from what we saw here, a new entrant into the motor repair, service center, and spare parts sale could be potential companies that buy and sell these guys. So they could be considering this line. Right? So if they are considering this line, in fact, first of all, let's look at other things that they might consider. So it's possible that they are considering this line, or don't close your mind to a merger like someone mentioned earlier, but looking slimmer than what we just mentioned. Because Ansoff as a model also fits into this now. So it's possible that you're even linking and discussing Ansoff with something like this. Merger and acquisition is completely outside Ansoff, right? So merger and acquisition might be very, very slim. There have not been much signal on M&A as far as this case is concerned. So I think the next question you probably want to ask yourself is, if FOLAC is considering motor repair, service center, and spare parts sales, what are possible things that can come on their table? Are they considering investing in those areas? If they are considering investing in those areas, it will be an investment appraisal thing. You know, right? If it is not investment appraisal thing, what else could it be? Think about them trying to go into motor repair, service center, and parts. That's where we might need to open our mind to alliances now and partnerships. Right? And very possible, really. What do you guys think? What else do you think?
I'm sorry, Mr. Simeon. Can you expand on the alliance or partnership? Because isn't the from understanding, right? Alliance would be like maybe uh merging with a company that is into motor repairs, service centers, and spare parts and sales. So what is the difference between the proposal for alliance or partnership and M&A?
So a proposal for alliance or partnership could be, I'm just thinking of something around the fact that so I'm thinking if these guys if they deal with parts, if they want to start dealing in motor repairs, service center, and spare parts now, let's say spare parts. So the point is, how do they go into that? Okay, if it is service center now, service center would require them to build a service center, really, a place that can really, accommodate that, right? And at the same time, commit a very huge capital to that. And that will be a typical capital investment appraisal where you're evaluating how much do you need, how much will be generated, is it going to be viable, is it not going to be viable, and that can be the conversation. And that one now, nothing much, but just for you to go and revise your investment appraiser. If you're writing SFM, you are good to go. So what to do is not a problem. It's just for you to be able to plan and know how to approach it. So the other bit is proposal in terms of alliance and partnership, and it could be, let's say, a company is already having a strong base in that area. It could even be, for example, partnering. So if they currently sell both new and old and used car in Nigeria as an indigenous company, so how do they get their new car? It can even be to partner with that service provider or with whoever, let's say one of these international guys, to even be an authorized partner in when it comes to spare parts now, not just cars. Um, and that can be something to happen. And then it's possible to have a proposal. Let's say, for example, you now have a proposal relating to Toyota, such that anything that has to do with spare part for Toyota, you want to be dealing with it. And it might not be, so it might be for you to just be the authorized dealer or whatever arrangements, I don't know. Anyhow, they want to bring that to you. That should not be the problem anyways. But the problem is basically to have the holistic picture of what might come. So a proposal can come, really. And when I say, if you look at what I just tried to explain, is not to say that FOLAC might need to merge with somebody, because that will be completely a different ball game, which is merger and acquisition sitting here. So it could be them intending to go independently. If you look at that part where they talked about the structure, if you look at this now, they said whatever you are doing in this sector, okay, although this is for the distribution anyways, which is the sector they are currently. So it's either you are operating as an authorized dealer or an independent dealer. And then you can also incorporate online platform. So if you are going into this line and you are looking at working as an independent person in that line, it will be a capital investment thing, a capital investment appraisal thing. Do you agree?
Yes.
But on the other hand, if you're looking at working with anybody, partnering with anybody at all, it will be a simple proposal from someone, a third party, or even you to them, and maybe you want to prepare a proposal. I've never seen I can examine that, but you can start maybe from your diet that you are the one preparing proposal to send to somebody now. Okay, it is well. So it is possible to have a proposal in form of alliance or a partnership. Does that make sense? All we're looking at is a possibility. And so I would rank this as first, really. I would rank this as first. It looks very probable. Tax planning, second. Or maybe tax planning, third. With the way ICAN is flying sustainability around the syllabus, please ensure you go and read what we had in sustainability last diet. There's nothing like, although last diet was specifically asked, even in case study, and we simulated it during the Preseen and it came out. In this diet, there's no signal around sustainability anyways, but just ensure you revise it, because in this new syllabus, sustainability is just flying everywhere. So really, these three things looks like they have a very strong possibility, so to say. What do you have to say, guys? Before we start landing. And you might want to read what I put together here on tax planning, really. I think on this sheet where I said what did I say? I said, okay, I think we should just go through this so that, can somebody read for us? He's looking short, but
Practice. You make it, it's tiny.
let me delete all of this. Yep. Somebody.
Key incentives for the automotive/vehicle manufacturing sector in Nigeria. 1, tax relief or tax holiday for vehicle assemblers/component manufacturers. Under the revised National Automotive Design and Development Council, NADDC, Auto Policy 2023 to 2033. Eligible assemblers, manufacturers of conventional internal combustion vehicles get 5 years tax relief. For example, the federal government has provided a 10-year tax relief for in-country electric vehicle and vehicle manufacturers. 2, pioneer status/tax holiday for manufacturing generally. Manufacturing firms can apply for pioneer status, which gives a tax holiday, which is corporate income tax for a set period, commonly 5 years, for new firms in qualifying industries. For the auto sector, the investment incentives for the automotive industry document notes pioneer status, etc. 3, capital allowance, research and development and training related deductions. Research and development expenses up to 120% of R&D expenses deductible. If locally raw materials involved, then are up to 140%. If local raw materials are involved, then it's up to 140%. Training incentives. Firms with in-plant training facilities may enjoy tax concessions, e.g., a lower corporate tax for a period for 5 years, capital allowance, and infrastructure investments. For example, manufacturing/automobile sector allowances for the initial and annual allowances on building/plants. 4, tariff/import duty concessions for CKD and SKD kits, equipment, and components. For local assembly, import duty and levies are reduced for completely knocked down or semi-knocked down kits, and duty exemptions for machinery for vehicle assembly. For example, all machinery and equipment imported for the purpose of vehicle assembly will attract 0% import duty and will be VAT-free. The National Automotive Council listing of incentives includes import duty for CKD vehicles assembly at 2.5% versus 30% for fully built units. And the 5th one, we have local content/procurement mandates and incentives. The new auto policy emphasizes increasing local content, steel, aluminum, plastics, electronics, etc., and encourages government procurement of made in Nigeria vehicles using local raw materials. Using local raw materials may trigger additional incentives. The 6th one, incentives specific to EV, that's electronic vehicle manufacturing. The policy provides special support for EVs and it's 10-year tax holiday for electronic vehicle assemblers or manufacturers and component makers. Then tariff/concessionary import duty exemptions on electronic vehicles or components. For example, import duties on electronic vehicles reduced, or VAT and AIT exemptions for electronic vehicles.
All right, thank you so much. And this is just to also summarize the point to say, if they bring anything tax planning and incentives in your way in the exam, this might be a point for you to consider and discuss around the tax incentives for the sector, which can be explored. Very important to review this, and that can also get us ready for this particular point relating to tax planning. Again, the way case study is that you're expected, as you can see from the very beginning here, you're expected to do research, understand the industry and all of those. You see even in your JD, you see here where it says it is your responsibility to do what? Do research and develop research and all of this, knowing what is currently happening in your sector and all of those. So very, very, important. Okay. So if they decide to bring taxation, I believe this will help you to be able to write. And I think you should write it for me in the Preseen, really. So in the Preseen, I want to see your discussion as it relates to FOLAX now. And what they are currently doing, the tax incentive that they are enjoying or that they can consider exploring, the new area they are considering going to, right, which is, let's say, they are considering going into motor repair, service center, and sales. And let's say they are even going the route of, I think you need to pick either of these two now. You can't pick both. I want to see different people pick different one. Some people can choose to pick investment appraiser. Some people can choose to pick alliance or partnership, right? But everyone should work on tax planning, right? If you have time, you can do the 3, but you don't need, your time starts this night and you are submitting around this time tomorrow. So pick one of these, deal with it, and then also work on the tax incentive. Rewrite those stories and advise FOLAC around tax, the current thing that they do, if there are things they are not tapping, encourage them to tap it by way of tax advice now. In the area they want to go into, tell them the tax implications, possible incentives that they can enjoy and all of those, pioneer legislation and all of those, if they are available, leverage on this note which I just showed you, right? I wouldn't want you to start reading your taxation again at this point, but if you need to reference, it's fine. And then the other, so obviously you won't have a number to work with in the investment appraiser. Maybe what you can do is to just draw, what I've always told students to do is to just demonstrate that they are comfortable with investment appraiser, to say, on an assumption, FULAC is considering going into repair, service center and all of those, which would require an initial outlay and for cash flow from year for a number of years. This cash flow will be evaluated using MPV and all of this. The discount rate, if given, will be used. If not given, will be estimated as the weighted average cost of capital, which will be a combination of the cost of capital, equity, and cost of debt. You just need to demonstrate that if they bring it from the investment appraiser side, you know exactly what to do. And that's what I want to see in your Preseen report. Not like I'm particular about you're calculating with actual number, or if you decide to use dummy figure, I'm not particular about the correctness. So just demonstrate that you're comfortable with investment appraisal and you're good to go. If you also choose to go the route of proposal from a partner, or any form of proposal, really, you just want to demonstrate that if you got, you can review previous data to see how they've always given proposals. Well, you receive a quote or you receive this proposal from this and all of that, and you just demonstrate that you can do it. And then the last part on that is tax planning. It will make sense for you to write something to be able to advise FULACs. Utilize your understanding of the industry, which we have been working through since, to write a very solid note on the tax bit, so that when you get inside the exam hall and you see anything tax planning, you will just say, I'm so lucky. And then the other bit, which I've also mentioned, is choose Porter's 546. Choose either Ansoff or Porter's Diamond to actually do justice to the other information that have been provided to you. And then the first part, which we spoke about earlier, is that I think we've already analyzed most of the ratios, but you can recompute and also analyze the ratios under 4 categories: trend and common size, profitability, that's efficiency, liquidity, and gearing. Discuss them, discuss how the performance looks like in the last 2 years, and utilize the qualitative information that have also been provided to justify some of this increase or decrease, where the case may be. So yeah, any other points to note or any question at this point so that we can wrap up?
So just to be clear, for the Preseen, you're saying that we can use like dummy figures for this investment appraisal since we are not giving any information yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're just doing it from the angle of, I'm demonstrating to this guy that if they give me investment appraiser in the exam around this, they said they want to go into motor repair, service center, and spare parts. So if they give me all those things, I know what to do. So that's just all you need. So you can choose to use figure. You can also choose to be writing it to say, if they are going into motor repair, if they are planning to embark on a project of motor repair and all of that, the company will be expected to construct, the company will need a factory for repair, maybe another warehouse for service center, which they need to buy with an initial outlay. They will also need some money, which is working capital for spare parts, to invest in inventory relating to spare part now, and those would be initial investments. So after that, this we would expect this to generate annual cash inflow over a period of time. If you don't want to, let me say you're not mentioning figure now, but just over a period of time, you know, in the process, we might be giving some cash flows that are not relevant, which I need to pay attention to and exclude. And at the end of the day, utilize NPV if no method of evaluating the capital project have not been mentioned, or use any specific method that they have asked us to use, basically. And at the end of the day, if the NPV is positive, I would advise Polak to go ahead with embarking on the project. And because this is a business, so to say, because this is a business, it's also likely to be long term in nature, but maybe 5 years minimum, but it could also be as high as 10 years. So everything you've been learning in SFM should also be put to use, basically. Yep. Any
Hi,
other?
hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so please, for the financial statement analysis, I mean the ratio part. I know you said it before, but forgotten. So are you saying we should work on the assumption that the financial statement was prepared, like there was an error in the financial statement because of this net income that we have?
You can choose anyone, really. I'm not bothered.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you work with the actual thing that is given to you in the exam. So if you work with this now, what we've done is to reverse it to exactly what we have in the question, which is obviously having an error. You can choose to work with it like this. You can also choose to change this to a correct number, which should be 9750, and that would make this a loss. And you work with that. It's just a dummy solution that you're working with for now. The most important thing is that be aware of what has happened here, so that in the exam you'll be able to check it and say, oh, is it 72 or is it 9750? So yeah. Any other question? So that we can close it at 11:30. So if there are no questions, are we all good to submit the report tomorrow by midnight as the deadline? We've given you all the numbers. We've given you, it's just for you to calm down, consolidate. You've been reading other courses, so there are no excuses around there. I have a lot to read. So you have to write the report. If you don't write the report, you have cheated, like you have just taken case study as you know, as not a serious course, and that might not be good. So you need to write the report, and our review will happen on Saturday, just a very brief review, so that we don't distract you on your other papers after you've written the report. The main review will now happen in the night to exam. When you are done with all your other papers, we'll now have like a night class together. The time is already circulated on the group. So yeah. And that's where we'll also like discuss more strategy, and you will see me bringing in maybe more research, especially on the tax side, investment, so as appraisal. So you see me bringing in more points that I need to share with you, and then we do like a final strategy. We strategize, finalize our strategy, and we go for it. Yep. So
the first report that we did, I've not gotten reviews, so that we can know like.
yeah, I was reviewing that. I couldn't finish before the Preseen was released, and because of that, I didn't want to release feedback for some people and not the few people that I was not able to review. And I think I just had to prioritize the mock. And you see that I had to do quite a bit of research and analysis. It is taking a lot of my time. So, but we'll definitely review the Preseen report, which is what we are dedicating 2 sessions to do, the Saturday morning, and also we'll then do a review on the Wednesday 2 exam. So, but I know the last call we had, we reviewed the report of those that felt their report was good. If you guys remember, I think that's what we did, right? So what you might want to do is to actually, I can upload those reports on the drive, those good reports, if that works, so that you can reference those people that will review their reports. Is that fine?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. So I'll upload that first thing tomorrow morning. I don't think I have energy tonight. All right. Any other question, guys? Yep.
Sorry, are we getting the Excel documents fine?
Okay.